All right. So first and foremost, I just want to thank Nightwalkers for putting on this event. I personally have never experienced something like this until they put it on in 2019. We were asked to come down and perform, and then there was a battle, and then there were classes, and it was like, what? I've never seen something like this for women, especially, and in California. I live in Los Angeles, and I know for a fact I haven't experienced that there. So it's really awesome to be able to drive a few hours and come up and have this time with you guys. So thank you, Nightwalkers, for having us. Before we get into the discussion, though, I am going to hand the mic to each woman here, and I would love for you all to introduce yourself, let us know where you're from, and your businesses, what, the multiple things that you got going on.
Well, thank you for having me here. My name's Sabrina Berhani. I'm from Modesto, but I've been here since 99, I guess, so I'm now Sacramento. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. I've been a realtor for 20 years, and I own Persevered Coffee House in Sacramento. We had 3 locations prior to the pandemic, and we've been selling them, so I'm selling my last one right now. And I'm selling to women only.
Hi everybody, my name is Vankova Armstrong, and I've been a dancer for almost over 23 years right now. I am from the Czech Republic, but I've been living in Los Angeles for over 10 years right now. And I am a movement artist and dancer, choreographer, but I'm also a really passionate environment and health and food coach, and just educator about health and food. And I've traveled for over 80 countries. My online classes has been sold in over 134 countries. So my main mission here is to just spread movement, health, and food, and passion, soul, money, mind, body, soul, everything, all of that. Yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Mylinh. I'm a director, choreographer, dancer. I used to be a lawyer. I'm a filmmaker. I did already say that one, I'm sorry. It's kind of hard to put myself in a category actually, because I feel like I've only done one of each thing. So sometimes it's hard to be like, I'm a filmmaker because I've made one film. But other than that, I've been dancing for 18 years. I'm part of Playboys Inc., which is a popping crew from San Jose that was established in 1981. I'm the first woman of Playboys, and I'm also the founding director of Mudwater Theater, which is a turfing theater project based in the Bay. We have our show coming up in November, so follow us on Instagram if you want to come. And I'm just going to stop there.
Don't mind the passing of the baton, okay? We're on a relay team here. Anyway, a little bit about me. I'm Kylie Williams. I am the creator and director of a group of incredible females called the Gentle Ladies. We're going to be performing a little later today. I'm also a photographer and just like a lover of people in space. So I'm really, really thankful to be here to talk to you all. Before like jumping in deeply, I kind of wanted, the first thing to do is talk about like taking a step back when you first were creating your first business or your first step into like creating some type of movement or capital with what you're doing. And what was your mindset like stepping into that space? Anybody want to take the baton on this one? Yeah.
So my main thing was, if anybody always told me like, hey, what are you going to do in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? My main thought always is, well, I don't know what are going to be the opportunities that are going to be presenting myself, right? And so my main mission always was to just search for the truth and be curious and always be passionate and go full out with what I'm doing. And this, in the same way, I actually created Are Your Alliance, that I'm currently directing and coaching really amazing dancers and artists from around the whole world. And the way it was created was very slow, it was very patient, and it was just with creating connections with people around the world, because I was traveling so much, and there was people that were on the same frequency as me, and they really related to my energy, and they wanted to just connect with me, either if it was on dance or on some other stuff, or either if I had something to teach them or they had something to teach me, you know. And so really Are Your Alliance started to be created somewhere since 2008, but officially I have created it in 2017, and that's when we got really serious about it. So it was a business, but also more of a passion and love of mine. It's my baby that was being created for such a long time. So for me, it's always more about the sustainability and more about looking long term instead of just creating something right now, here, now. It has to be successful. If it's not successful, it's not good, you know? So it's more about the process than the end goal. Yeah.
Similar to what Jaja just said, I remember, thank you. Sorry, it's like making a lot of noise. I remember when I was in high school, everybody would ask, what are you gonna be? And at the time it was like, my options were either a pharmacist, a dentist, or a doctor. And nobody presented it like, what do you wanna do? It was like, what are you gonna be? And so I thought at that age that whatever choices you make are forever. And so it's kind of ironic that, you know, now I can't even say that I'm this or that. It's just like I'm always doing different things, because at different points in my life, I'm learning different skills, and then I find ways to put them all together. So in terms of mindsets, I feel like that's one of the main things, right? Is realizing that nothing's fixed. And that's a huge one for me, fixed mindset versus growth mindset. When you have a fixed mindset, you don't evolve. You think like, oh, I'm a failure, versus when you have a growth mindset, you think, I failed this time, and that's a point of learning for me. And now I can get better because I failed in this one regard. And so that was a game changer for me in terms of starting a business or an idea, because, you know, when you go into like filmmaking and you tell yourself, I'm not a filmmaker, I don't know what I'm doing, then you've already kind of started off on the wrong foot in a sense. But if you go into it and you're like, it doesn't matter if I'm a filmmaker or not, like I have this idea, I have this vision, and if I don't follow through on it, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night. That's a much better point of entry in my experience. The other mindset thing that I want to talk about is the entrepreneurial mind versus the employee mind. I feel like a lot of times we go into entrepreneurship stuck in the employee mindset. So if we're a dancer, we're looking for a dance company to audition for. Or if we're an actor, we're looking for a director to hire us to be in their film. But when you're an entrepreneur and you have the mindset of an entrepreneur, what you're thinking about is not looking for an employer. You're looking at a problem that you see, and you're trying to figure out a solution for it. And so it becomes much less about, you know, finding people to support you, and instead developing your idea. And I think of entrepreneurs actually as like social scientists. They experiment, they like go through different prototypes, they test things. So when something's not working out, they're not like blaming their friends and family for not supporting them more. They're thinking like, okay, this version didn't work. Let me go in and find out what went wrong. And so they'll like take surveys and ask people like, what did you not like about this? What did you like about it? And that to me is the entrepreneurial mind.
touch on that a little bit. So growing up, I never wanted to miss an opportunity. And it got me in a lot of trouble as a child. But as an adult, it allowed me to really test a lot of things. So before my first coffee shop, which was in 2014, I had many small businesses. And I'm not a dancer. So I'm more like a brick and mortar kind of building business person. But I had markets downtown. I mean, I had a lot of failures to get where I was. But what I knew I wanted was my time. And I had a vision. I knew I was good with people. And I knew that I had really good ideas, and I had a mom who said, you can do anything. And with those ideas, I fell up. Like, I failed a lot, but I fell up. And my first store was in 2014. It was a little coffee shop, and never worked in coffee. I'd never worked in food, but I could talk to people. And people about 6 months later would come and say, you know, your coffee wasn't really that good in the beginning, but we liked you. And it was that likability factor. And it was the fact that I knew I couldn't fail because I'd invested so much time. And it was a dream that I had. So it was a family business with my sister and I and our children. And we followed that dream. And it's 9 years now and 3 later. And, you know, part of, I think, the entrepreneurial thing is also knowing when to pivot. So my heart isn't in it like it used to be. And I know it's time to pass it on. And that's where we have made the decision to pass it on. But we know the space that we have created and the space that we held should go to another woman. So we have sold to 2 women who have had a dream of a coffee shop. And that's going to be our legacy as entrepreneurs, is to keep it forward. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I'm also like a very family-oriented person. My sister lives in LA. And we're super, super close. She does music, I dance, you know, put the 2 and 2 together. It's a good time. But I'm actually curious. I have a question, like pivoting off of that. And also, Jaja, I know that you are a mother of a cute little girl. She's so cute. I've been watching them on Instagram and I'm like, I want to hang out and dance with her and have her teach me some groups. But I'm curious, like, with being a part, you know, having this business with your sister and now building your business with your family, like, how does that intertwine, like, this real life with your kids, your personal life inside of a business world?
It's complicated. It's extremely complicated. And not to go into detail, but we had to go to counseling. We had to really learn how to communicate as not only siblings, but as a partnership. So, you know, we shared an income. We were like a married couple. It was weird. We shared the same money. We shared our children at the time because we had them in the shop with us while they were in school. We shared all of our time. And at one point in the beginning, we shared a home because we had invested all of our money. So we couldn't get away from each other. So we went from counseling and then we found our lanes. And I'm really good at talking to people. I'm very creative in wanting to start something. I like to start something and then watch it blossom. My sister is an accountant, so she does all the back office. So for us to keep our relationship and to keep the family dynamics healthy, we found our lanes. I don't even know how to log into my bank accounts. She doesn't make any decisions that comes to operations, aesthetics, social medias, or anything like that. So we found the lane. And over the time, she's moved back to the East Coast. So I'm running it by myself. My son graduated college, so he's in LA. So it's kind of organically grown apart, which is, I think, why is the time for us to pass it on to another family. But it's complicated, and it's also lovely because we have become so incredibly close as adults and got to know each other really differently and respect each other. I think that the respect was grown over the past couple of years, to say the least. Yeah.
I love this question. It is really a huge challenge, and I have to say I'm really grateful for my husband because me and him are a really great team, and we know how to support each other in time of challenge. And yes, there are communication differences, of course, especially cultural differences, because I'm from very different cultures. So he's still getting used to that. So there has to be balance. There has to be respect. There always has to be communication, even if you are cutting into late night hours sometimes. I mean, it's midnight and we are still talking about how to solve, certain things about our work and dance. And I am grateful that we both get to work from home, but then we travel as well too. On the other hand, being a dancer in Los Angeles is also very difficult, because it's not like we wake up in the morning and we clock into work and we clock out at night. We constantly have to create the income every day, right? We are constantly creating the income. And so, yeah, we found I'm gonna go into a detail because I know this helped a lot of people actually. We found a thing that works for me and my husband, where from Monday to Saturday, Sunday's family day, it's our day off, right? So Sunday we just spend time together no matter what. But from Monday to Saturday, we have 8:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. is one person's working time. 1:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. is another person's working time. And this way we switch, right? So I spend quality time with our daughter. He spends quality time with our daughter, but then we also get the working times as well too. And it works really well until Maya comes and says, "Mama, I want to be with you," So then I have a working time with Maya sometimes, But I think that what is really important is knowing not the what you are doing, but why you are doing it. That's really, really important. Yeah, because then you find the purpose behind it, why you're doing it, and then you will never really work a day in your life because you will enjoy it, So it will be the purpose you will have behind it. Yeah.
What was the question again? I mean, it had to do with family, right? I mean, I don't really have family involved in my stuff, but I could talk about what it's like directing street dancers, which sometimes feels like a family. I think a lot of the times everybody assumes, especially for all artists, right? We all assume like talent is it. Like as long as you work on your talent and your skill, you're good. But I think that's half of it. The other half is professionalism. And people think professionalism is like putting on a suit and clocking in at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock. But professionalism could be, just checking your personal stuff at the door. Like don't be talking negative about your peers. Showing everybody who came on time respect by being on time yourself. All these things. It's really hard to nail that down. And so I one of my passions is to expand the platforms we have for street dance so that it's not just battling or teaching workshops. That's why I've kind of ventured into theater. I've kind of started to make my way into the contemporary art gallery space. And I'm looking for ways to bring street dance so that it's, what we do is also contemporary art. What we do is also contemporary dance. And so, it bothers me when like contemporary ballet is the default. We call it modern or contemporary, but really it's just contemporary ballet. And so that's been one of my goals, but it's just really tough when you're working in you're trying to cross two different cultures, because like dance company culture is very different from street dance culture, and there's just like a lot of things to navigate there. But at the end of the day, I feel like what gets us through it is that we all really care about each other. And at the end of that day too, we also realize what the goal is, and we just keep working through, trying to push our way through that.
I'm having such a great time up here with y'all. I work with women who are not biologically my family, and there's 6 of us. So managing time and energy and personal life and professionalism all in one, it's a lot. It can be a lot. And then, doing music and dance with my sibling, that's like a whole other type of entity and energy. And so it's really amazing to hear like how you guys have navigated through that and found some structure too with having a child and all the things in between. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to talk about the pandemic because it really happened and it was a real thing and we all felt it. And especially on the entrepreneurial side of things is like what to do kind of when the whole world stops. Like how do you continue creating, or how do you continue funding a space that, coffee is the main intake, people coming into your space is like the way that you continue moving forward. So I would love to just hear about y'all's experience with the pandemic and within your creative working fields.
So that was a doozer. I remember the day that we were told we had to shut down, and I had 9 employees at the time and 3 shops, and I had just shopped. So I had milk for weeks. I had cookies, I had everything, and we did it in coffee. Everything was perishable. So my sister and I shut the doors, and we gathered. We took a couple of days, and we separated, gathered our thoughts. We came back together. I do want to note that we never missed a paycheck for any of our employees, but we did tell them, if you get a job, take it. Like if you find somewhere to work, take it. I don't know how long we can do this, but we never did miss that. We started opening up our doors and putting on social media, if you buy a pound of coffee, you get a gallon of milk. And we stood outside of our shops and people would drive up and everything was contactless. And we got rid of all of our stuff. Everything that we couldn't sell, we donated to the African Center over in the Florin area. The rest of our perishables went there. And then we started selling everything online and keeping communication with everybody. We would just do pop-ups. At some point, we negotiated with our landlords, but we really had to be creative as to how we were going to keep this alive because we didn't know if it was going to be for a month or 2 months, and it ended up being a lot longer than we had ever anticipated. And then we kind of beat the system. We just were open enough hours that we could have 1 employee work. So 5 hours and 59 minutes, they don't need a 30-minute break. So we would rotate people and be open only 5 hours and 59 minutes so that one person could work and everybody would have time within our shops. I guess we just really put our head down and then closed one. We closed one of the shops. It just never reopened. And that was one that just wasn't going to work out for us. But we were kind of running out of ideas, and now we're like a year and a half in, right? And it was something that was just no longer going to be sustainable. And then we decided to sell. And so we told our manager of 6 years, we're like, it's time for you to be an owner. And she said, I can't be an owner. And I said, well, you don't know, but you've actually been trained to take over. We've been doing this intentionally for you. And so we were able to pass it on, so we didn't get to close that one. She got to, it was October 26th, a year and a half ago, she purchased that one. So our way out of the pandemic and staying open was to make sure that everybody that supported us, we were able to support, and everybody who was loyal to us, we were able to somehow give them a piece of our pie. A little different, but that's how we did it, yeah.
Yeah, the pandemic completely changed my life, and changed everything that I was doing before. Because before pandemic, my main thing that I was doing was travel. I was pretty much in different country every weekend, on average, I would spend 30 hours a week on a plane, which wasn't sustainable really, but I was doing it. So it was like a full-time job on a plane where I got to read books about health. So that's how I was able to educate myself on all of it. And once COVID hit, I mean, all travel was just gone. And I was at home and I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna practice now, you know. I don't know what else to do. No, but I was lucky. I was lucky because 8 months before the pandemic, I actually started my online classes. And at the time in Los Angeles, there was only 2 people who was doing online classes. And it was my other teacher, Jaja, and myself. And he actually told me, like, hey, get into it because it's like you will make really, really good money with it, right? So I started 8 months before the pandemic. By the time the pandemic came, I had already everything set up. I already knew how to run it. I had so many classes out already. And once the pandemic came, everybody was home. Everybody wanted to train. And so everybody started to buy online classes. And I was like, holy snap, this is the way to go. And so I transitioned everything that I was doing. I started to transition online. If it was like technique and dance business and health and food and everything online. If it was live online classes, if it was pre-recorded, if it was like online mentoring, like long-term mentoring and all of that. So pretty much like my main income, my main thing right now is just online teaching and online coaching and online video content and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a huge change. However, it worked out in the greatest way possible as well too, because me and my husband were like, well, we are home, so let's just get pregnant, you know. And so we did. And it worked out in the best way possible, because I believe if the pandemic didn't happen, we might not have Maya right now, you know, and she is the best thing in our lives right now. So I'm really grateful for the pandemic happening as well too. Yeah.
I was actually dreading this question because I'm one of the weirdos who loved the lockdown. I'm trying to remember where I was. I was in my final year at Arizona State University. I was doing my master's in dance, master's of fine arts in dance, and I was supposed to have a full evening-length solo show that was going to be like my final thesis project. And so I had already booked the flights for my composer and my projection artist, and the date was set. I had the production planned out, and then they told me we were going to cancel it. And I remember like getting on my knees and just like thanking God, because I was not ready. And so there was also a job interview that I had been set to go through. It was at University of Oregon in Eugene. They were so it was like a professorship of dance, and I was gonna interview for that position, but then that got canceled, and they wouldn't reimburse me for the flights. So I was like, I don't want to work for you guys anyway. And after that, we had already filmed all of the Mudwater scenes, so then it was just a matter of editing, and that was pretty much, you know, like the lockdown did not affect that at all. So I don't know, I didn't really, not much changed for me in the pandemic, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, definitely everything shifted for me, but in a really great way, in a positive trajectory. I think that mentally there was a lot that was happening being stuck at home, because I was also really active, not necessarily traveling 30 hours a week on a plane, but I definitely was active. And like having that still moment was a bit scary to step into. But it was also exciting, because I feel like as a creative person in general, it was like, okay, now I have time to like maybe marinate and move in a way that I didn't even see before. So I'm happy that the pandemic worked out so great for y'all. Okay. This is a little bit like more specific per person, but I did actually want to talk a little bit about the film because you had a Kickstarter and you funded it. It went through 5 days before, right? And if y'all don't know about Kickstarter, it's like an all or nothing situation. So that's major that you were able to do that. You did it in the midst of the pandemic, and then you were able to put the film together, and now it was selected for SM Film. Okay. So I would love to hear a little bit more about the film, actually.
Where do I start? It was actually not meant to be a film in the beginning. It was supposed to be a whole theater production. What happened was we won a massive grant. It actually wasn't that large, but to me it was huge because it was the most money we've ever gotten. And it's so funny because now we have more than twice that and it doesn't feel like enough. So money is such a weird thing, right? So what happened was I only spent half of the grant, and then they told me you need to spend the other half by this date. And I didn't think that, because at the time I had moved to Arizona, so it was really hard to produce a theater production from another state. So then I asked them, can I just make a film? And at the time, I think I was imagining I was just gonna shoot like a very long music video or something. But I sat there and I thought about it, and I was like, how often am I gonna have this amount of money to do something? So then it turned into an actual film. Like we had a crew, we had a red camera, which is like a very expensive camera, and it cost like probably like a third of our budget just to rent this camera. And then we had permits from BART that also cost like thousands of dollars. And we really made this film like a film. And it was intimidating because I didn't go to film school, but my director of photography did. So he kind of walked me through the whole process. And I had worked with those specific turfers that were in the film for 5 years prior, because we started Mudwater as a dance theater company in 2015, which I cannot believe is like 8 years ago. So the film was a hurricane. I had less than a month to write the script, prepare for the shooting, and then we shot for 10 days straight. And I barely slept, and I was doing every job you can think of. Like I was cooking for the cast and the crew, and then I was carrying equipment to our filming location, and then I was directing the scene, and then I would drive everybody to the next location. So it was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. And I have taken the California bar exam, which is a 3-day exam, 7 hours each day. And that was nothing compared to this project. So when we finally finished it and it was selected for SF Film Festival, which is like a big international film festival, we were not expecting this. It was just such a huge relief to see it done and to see it with an audience in the theater all together. And the nice thing about watching it with turfers is they don't sit quietly for anything. They're like getting up to get popcorn, and then they see themselves on the screen and they just like stand up and start like yelling like, that's me. And it was so worth it just for that, just to be in the room with them when they saw themselves.
The amount of energy it takes to like not only just mentally, visualize a concept in a movie and all these different things, but then like putting a pen to paper and then also like now taking action to make it done, and then all the post things that come after and all the people that are involved, and then finally seeing it, like what a wave of emotion to have. But congratulations on putting a film out. That's not an easy thing to do at all. And Jaja here has been on TV shows and music videos. She's also, created her own projects as well. I just am curious, do you have any similar experiences, or have you felt like that process was a very easy thing to kind of step into, or any thoughts about that? Yeah. Or like a movement visual, right? Because yeah. I'm holding my hair.
I have never created like a full like a 30-minute film or an hour film, but I created a bunch of short projects, and I mean it's never an easy task. It's always a challenge. It's always really difficult. But again, I think it's really important to always remember the not what we are doing it for or what we're doing, but why we are doing it, it's just going through these different projects. What I loved about it the most is to learning about behind the scenes of how to do camera work, how to direct, how to shoot, how the camera works, how the editing works. All of that stuff takes so much freaking work, just to understand the stuff in the camera, just to understand the post-production. It is a whole another world. It is a whole another art. And I feel like it's really important to understand that for everybody, no matter if there is MC or DJ at the event, if there is a director of a theater show, if there is a director of putting on an event like this, it all takes immense amount of effort and passion and work and discipline and money, mainly money. And it's not an easy task. It's sleepless nights, and it's so many things you have to think of. So just from speaking from my own experience on putting on events and creating projects like this, it's if the passion for dance wasn't there in it, I wouldn't go through it, because at times it gets so stressful. You have to remind yourself of why you love it so much. Yeah.
Well, we're running low on time here, and I wanted to do something kind of fun. We only have one mic, so we're gonna see how this is gonna work. I'm just gonna say I wanted to do a speed round question, one answer. I'm gonna give you a this or that situation, and I just want to hear what you're gonna say. Okay, so I'm gonna say it without the mic. Okay.
I was too.
There's only a couple. Okay, so night or morning?
Morning.
Night. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Matcha.
Oh.
Coffee.
Okay. All right. What did you say? Tea.
I said matcha, which is a tea.
Okay. Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
She's upset about that.
That's the new trend,
Okay. Show or tell?
Show.
Show.
Yeah.
Dog or cat?
Dog.
You're quick. Okay, last one. Would you rather see the future or change the past?
No, I would rather stay in the present.
Stay in the
Yeah.
Stay in the present.
Okay, stay in the present. That's a good answer.
See the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I feel like those questions are so good. You can get to know somebody a little bit better with those speed round. What are you gonna say? So thank you for that, and thank you again, Nightwalkers, for letting us be here and have this panel about her business, brand, and ideas. Give it up for these incredible business women. Please talk to them if you guys have questions, and enjoy the rest of the evening.